Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday morning edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, John McMullen. Give us follows on X at Zander Krause and at JF McMullen, breaking down the Eagles offseason, which is now in the rear view. And we are officially 10 days away from the Philadelphia Eagles home opener, or the season opener. It's the NFL opener, really, Thursday night, Eagles versus Cowboys. The banner will drop at the Lincoln Financial Field in 10 days from now. Cut down day is tomorrow, so the initial 53-man roster will come out tomorrow at 4 p.m. John, we got about 44 minutes left on today's show, and I do want to kind of run down your 53 as it stands today. Might change a lot after the show, which is kind of the problem, but we can talk about where some changes might happen. But 10 days out from the opener and 1 day out from that 53-man roster cut. John, the NFL season is here, my friend.
Yeah, can't come soon enough as far as I'm concerned. September 4th, Dallas Cowboys, Eagles. As you mentioned, I got to pay attention to the banner drop this time. So obviously that'll be an exciting day for Eagles fans. I do think they're well prepped to beat Dallas Cowboys team. I'm not terribly high on this year. I think they'll be better than they were last year, but too many issues, too many self-inflicted issues as well from their standpoint to compete with the Eagles, who are a good team. It's just a matter of how good.
Yeah, we'll see what they're able to do. We'll see how they're able to prevail this season. One thing I always love about the NFL season is the unknown. You never know how it's going to unfold. You never know what's going to happen that changes the trajectory of a season, and a lot of luck is involved, John, no doubt about it, when you have injuries and all these different things at play. John, let's start to talk about that 53-man roster. We just kind of kicked it around with Jeff Kerr. 3 trades yesterday for the Eagles have changed it a little bit. You mentioned you put Kennard in, sent the email, and later he's gone. So it will change, John. But let's start on the offensive side of the ball. All right, quarterbacks I think is an easy place to start. Give me the 3.
That's pretty easy. Jalen Hurts, Tanner McKee, Sam Howell. As I said, there was some consternation. I think NFL media put out Tanner was likely to start on injured reserve. All indications are that is not the case. He is not going to be out 4 games. So they're going to carry him until he's ready. So Jalen Hurts, Tanner McKee, and the newly acquired Sam Howell are your obvious quarterback depth chart. I do believe they will try to get Kyle McCord back on the practice squad. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think, is going to move on.
With as far as Tanner McKee goes, John, I know you don't think IR. I don't either. But what do you think? Well, do you think he'll be back week 2, week 3, week 4? Like, that is a weird injury. And I will say, national media, yes, but you also told me after the preseason game, he wasn't. He didn't really take his hand out of his pocket, which kind of made.
No, he didn't. And you know that put week 1 on alert. Very doubtful that he's going to be the backup against the Cowboys. That's why Sam is here. But yeah, I would be stunned if. Typically, I don't get lied to. I would be stunned if he's placed on injured reserve to start the season.
I don't think injured reserve, but do you think he could miss the first 2 games? You know,
sure.
Maybe
Yeah. The only thing it guarantee he will not miss 4 games. That is the Eagles' belief. So,
right. Or else they
he broke the tip of his thumb, which obviously is more concerning than an index finger or, a pinky.
And his throwing hand as well, right?
Throwing hand, yeah. So, and he was very cautious with it at the game, trying to protect it at all costs. So definitely don't think he's going to be there to be the backup against the Cowboys. Definitely think he's not going to miss 4 games is where I am with Tanner McKee.
All right, so those are the 3 quarterbacks. I think we all expected those to be the guys, and probably McCord to the practice squad, right?
Well, we didn't expect Sam Howell to be the guy, but he is.
But after the trade, I think that's what we all knew it would be. And then probably McCord to the practice squad, assuming he gets through.
Yeah, and I think he will. because he didn't show much. So I don't think that should be an issue.
Yep, I agree with that. John, moving into running backs, how many are they keeping and who are the names? I think 3 probably, right?
Well, 3 unless you consider fullback. So depending if you want to split that, 3 or 4. Saquon Barkley, Will Shipley, A.J. Dillon, Ben Van Sumeren, the fullback are going to make the team. And I do think they will try to bring Montrell Johnson back on the practice squad. Is how I think they would want to go forth this season.
He had a decent preseason, Montrell Johnson. We'll see if we get him back to the practice squad. John, moving on, you mentioned the fullback already with Ben Van Sumeren. Let's go to that offensive line. This is where I get gets a little interesting with how many offensive linemen they could keep. Obviously made some moves yesterday with Kennard out the door, bringing in Fred Johnson. I think the 5 starters are obvious. All right. Mailata, Dickerson, Juergens, Steen, and Lane Johnson. After that, John, who do you got on this offensive line room? How many are they keeping, and what are the names?
Well, I think they'll keep 10. Pretty confident on the first 9. Matt Pryor, Drew Kendall, Fred Johnson will be the game day backups. Miles Hinton will be the red shirt player.
Okay.
Then you have that 10th spot. That could go to Brett Toth if you just want to be straightforward. It could go to Trevor Keegan. It's not going to go to Cam Williams. It's not going to go to Holland Pierce. So, they could try to elevate Toth early in the season, put him on the practice squad. So that could be a place they manipulate a little bit. I do think they want to get Cameron Williams and Holland Pierce on the practice squad. And they'll probably try to get another offensive lineman who can play center. So I don't know if they want to keep both Toth and Keegan on the practice squad, but if they keep one on the regular roster, they'll try to get the other on the practice squad.
So some optionality there and what different ways they can go. Pretty cool that you think they're going to put that Rutgers kid on the practice squad. He was obviously fighting an uphill battle with as many offensive linemen that they had, but that'd be cool to get him on the practice squad.
Yeah, and I think they will. He didn't play that well in the preseason, so I don't. And he was undrafted to begin with, so I don't think anybody's going to give him a 53-man spot. That's what you have to do if you claim somebody on waivers. So if the Eagles want him, they'll be able to get him on the practice squad.
Yep, good stuff there, John. Moving into let's go tight ends first. All right, how many are they keeping here, and then the names you got there?
Well, I got him keeping 3 this year because I do think Conley Granson deserves to make the team. Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, obviously 1 and 2. EJ Jenkins, really poor finish to the summer, bunch of drops. But I do think they'll try to bring him back on the practice squad again, see if they can get his confidence back up because they do like his value as a blocker. He's turning into a pretty good blocker, and that might be more important with no Johnny Wilson. So I do think they'll try to continue to work with him, but just didn't do enough to make the team.
So 2, probably 3 there. We'll see. Last year they kept 2, right?
Yeah, they kept 2. I don't see – well, the problem there is I don't see the need to keep an extra offensive lineman to make those gesticulations. I don't see the need to keep an extra defensive lineman. That's typically if they want to go really heavy and keep somebody off waivers up front on both sides of the football, they typically play those games. And then they would try to get Granson on the practice squad and elevate him for the first 3 games, then put him on the roster. But I don't see the need to do it at this stage.
All right, we'll see what they end up doing there. Johnny Mac, good stuff. Let's keep going here. Wide receivers. How many do we got at wide receiver, and who are the names? We just talked about this with the 6, but let's rehash down here for this segment.
Yeah, I got to keep him 5. Obviously, AJ, Devontae Jahan, John Mechie, and Darius Cooper, I think, deserves and that's part of the thing. When you get an undrafted kid who produces, you want to send a message and say, oh, look, if you do what you're supposed to,
right,
we'll keep you around. And I think they'll put a bunch of guys on the practice squad. another undrafted rookie, Taylor Moore, and I think he's done enough. And then the other guys are going to be interesting. There's going to be one vet, so could be Terrace Marshall, could be Elijah Cooks. Avery Williams is a guy I haven't mentioned. He hasn't done enough to make the team in my mind, but they like him as a core special teamer. He could be a kick returner with Will Shipley and could help out at punt returns if they want to go the elevation route for the first couple of weeks. You think about what they did with Britton Covey early. Elevate them early in the season. When they run out, then you put them on the 53. So don't forget about Avery Williams. He might start on the practice squad.
We'll see about that with those guys at wide receiver. That wraps up the offensive side of the ball. Johnny Mack, interesting there because I was reading a couple of the other beat guys this morning before the show and their 53-man projections. I think was it Kemsky? I think it was Jimmy Kemsky who had Dillon getting cut. AJ Dillon getting cut.
Same thing, same philosophy. I've seen a few people do that. Same because he's vested.
Right.
So he doesn't have to go through waivers. So
got the injury concerns. I don't think teams are going to claim him or anything. So yeah.
Well, they can't claim him. That's the point. He's vested. So he becomes a free agent. So that's where you can do the wink deal. And
right. Come on back. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a candidate, but I think he's done enough to make the team. And again, I don't see the position where they want to go really, really heavy. Earlier, I thought maybe receiver, but it just didn't manifest itself. Offensive line, I thought they had a bunch of guys they're going to get well. Turns out they didn't play that well. Defensive front, I think they're keeping people they don't want to keep if they don't make a deal. So I don't see the need to do it as much this year.
We'll see what they do. John, let's move into that defensive side of the ball. We'll start on that defensive front. Let's start with the interior of the D-line. Who you got? How many they keep in there, and what are the names?
I think they're keeping 6, so they're going deep on the interior. Jalen Carter, Moro, Jomo, Jordan Davis are obviously the top 3. Byron Young, I think, is 4. So he's a guy I think that will surprise some people. Ty Robinson is here. He's going to redshirt. He's not going to be active. And then Gabe Hall would be so I think they're going to go pretty deep on the interior of the defensive line.
So rattle those names again. You got Carter, you got Davis, you got Ajomo, obviously, Ty Robinson, Gabe Hall, and who was the 6th?
Byron Young.
So you got them keeping both.
Yes. And I think Byron Young is really 4 of that group. He is the 4th interior defensive player.
Yeah, I think Ty is like 4 by default, but not the 4th player on the field is kind of what you're saying.
No,
right?
Oh, yeah. He's not going to play early or maybe the entire season.
All right. 6 is a lot for the interior, John. What do you got at the edge? How many?
5, as we said, but I think something's going to be done here. Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, Josh Uche, Azeez Ojulari, Patrick Johnson. I do not think Azeez deserves to make the team, but he's, he has to at this stage, unless the Eagles get something done. And, it's difficult after Powell Ronlin showed up against the Jets and, maybe he pulled an Eli Ricks and boxed the last 30 seconds of the round and convinced Howie somebody might keep him. Somebody might claim him. But otherwise, he'll get to the practice squad and they'll continue to work with him that way. I also think they'll bring back O'Shawn Mathis on the practice squad as well on the edge.
We'll see what they do there. That's interesting. A lot of defensive linemen, John, on this team. John, let's go linebackers. Who do we got? How many they keep in? What do you think they do at that position?
Yeah, that's the easiest position. Zach Bond, Jihad Campbell, Jeremiah Trotter, Junior Smile Munden. Obviously, N'Kobe will start on the PUP list. So that was easy. And they'll Lance Dixon. They'll want to work on the practice squad, and they'll get him through waivers, so it won't be a problem.
Good stuff there, John. Let's move to the secondary. Let's go safety first. Who do you got? Who do you have them keeping there? How many?
Only 4: Reed, Sidney Brown, Drew Makuba, Tristan McCullum. Part of the reason you're only keeping 4 is because you're keeping 6 corners, and Cooper can play both. So the versatility of Cooper DeJean helps. But as far as listed safeties, it'll be Reed, Sidney, Drew Makuba, and Tristan McCullum.
And then 6 corners you just mentioned. Who are they?
Quinyon, Adoree Jackson, Cooper, Keely Ringo, Mac McWilliams, Jacorian Bennett are your 6 corners. Bunch of good backups. Don't know if you have a starter opposite Quinyon. That's the issue there. I do think they'll try to bring Andre Sam back at safety on the practice squad. Maxon Hook potentially as well. Brandon Johnson and even Eli Ricks at corner. If they can get those guys back to the practice squad.
All right. So what do you think of that? What do you think of that 53 you just laid out?
I think the top 20 is really good. Top 20 or so. Yeah, not as deep as the hope was coming into this process. And I think that's evident by what they've done. I again, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And they have indicated, well, we don't think the depth was good enough. And that continues at, edge defender, most notably. I think they're fine from a depth standpoint. A lot of people talked about corner. I think they're fine from a depth standpoint. The problem is you got to find a starter on the outside opposite Quinyon. That's the issue. Got 2 redshirt players, Miles Hinton, Ty Robinson, who probably aren't going to play. And certainly if you were to grade the positions, I would say the weakest remains edge rusher. Safety might be a close second because I think you just have a bunch of guys after Reed with some upside with Drew, but other than that, I think it's just okay. But I think what sticks out like a sore thumb right now is edge rusher, and I do think Howie will get something done.
A lot of fans, John, still clamoring for secondary players, cornerback, safety. Last night I did a poll in the chat on my live show of, corner, edge, safety. If you can only trade for one, who you trading for? I think corner won out a little bit over the edge rusher.
I mean, they already made their move at corner, guys. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. And, I think it might work out. It's just not going to be week 1. I just got here. But they already made their move at corner. You're not getting a Pro Bowler. I saw somebody tweeted, "Bring back Slay." You're looking for a guy with upside. They got a guy with upside. They already made the move.
Guy with up. I mean, I don't know. I get why people are saying it, but I don't know exactly. I don't know if they would rest on their laurels because they made a move for Bennett. I mean, it was a pretty simple trade for Jacorian Bennett. It wasn't like they sent that much to get him. They sent Thomas Booker.
Well, they didn't send that much to get anybody. Everybody's excited about the trades yesterday.
So I don't think it would stop them from making. I mean, they made 2 tackle moves yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it would stop them.
Well, they gave a lot more for Jacorian Bennett than those deals yesterday, because Booker was a rotational player. So it was a more meaningful trade than even the Mechie trade from that standpoint. Because Harrison Bryant wasn't going to make.
I mean, I guess in theory, John, if you improve the edge, you are helping your secondary as well because you'll get pressure better. But I don't know if that's a guarantee at this phase either. That's why I like Trayvon Walker because, look, I understand the guy from Atlanta that you're saying, Ebiketie, but does he make a difference? I mean, I think he'll make a difference, but does he make a difference that helps your secondary, that makes life easier on the – I don't know if he does. I think he's a better rotational piece.
Well, I think he's your second best edge rusher. the minute he walks into the door. So yeah, I think it makes you better.
Trayvon Walker looks he sounds worth it to me. I don't even know if they're willing to move him at this point. Is there any more talk about that from them or no? I know they picked up the 5th-year option, didn't they?
I believe so, but
yeah, I believe they did a couple months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, but from the standpoint of, look, I mean, evidently people don't believe in Jacorian Bennett. I think they do. So I'm not saying they're right, but they've already made their move at cornerback. And it might be wrong, but that's what's going on. And remember, they do have the safety net of playing Cooper outside if everything goes wrong. You know, Cooper's the break glass in case of emergency everywhere in the second.
Yeah, right. And what is your thoughts on safety right now? I mean, I know corner obviously has what it has. They've already traded for Jacorian Bennett, but safety is kind of a question too. I mean, Sidney Brown and Makuba are battling for one spot, and neither of those two guys are proven players. We're putting a lot on Reed Blankenship this year.
Yeah, well, they've always put a lot on Reed, so that doesn't change. He's the leader of the secondary. That, you know, he was last year. I think people just didn't realize it. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't change for Reed. Reed has the same role he had last year. He just doesn't have a playmaker next to him. And maybe he does if Drew can stay healthy. But obviously last year you had the nice complementary nature of a guy who's just fundamentally sound with this big playmaker. And I thought that was a good compliment. And that's what they're trying to recreate with Drew. Whether they get there or not remains to be seen. Obviously, number one, he's got to stay healthy, and he's got to prove he can hold up. CJ really built up his body. He's another one of those guys. And I think people don't realize just how big and physical he was at the end.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. Definitely some concerns on this defense, but overall, I mean, I feel like you're in a decent position. But a lot has to go your way, as it does every year. I mean, that's kind of the case everywhere in the NFL. But it is interesting to think about, you know, this defense coming in, John, because the defense was such a big part of the team last year, and just a lot of change from one year to the next on that side of the ball.
Yeah. I've been talking about it all spring and all summer. A lot of really good defensive players left in the offseason. And that's part of it. I mean, timing, you know, all the offensive players are getting paid. So, you know, it'll start to shift with Jalen Carter and then Nolan coming, and then Cooper, and then Quinyon, yada, yada, yada. So it'll start to change. But ultimately, you know, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams got overpaid, but they're good players. Isaiah Rodgers got overpaid, but he's a good player. Slay was a cap casualty. Make no mistake about it. They didn't want to go 2 years for Oren Burks, even, you know, 1 year they would have thought about bringing him back. So most of it was the business of football. Nobody's saying they were bad players.
Right.
Just the business of football. You have to allocate your assets. That's the trick.
How good of a spot are they in right now moving forward?
Well, I think they're still one of the top 5 teams in football. So if you're in that conversation, you have a chance. Again, you have to stay healthy. And they've been healthy compared to other teams. So they seem to be approaching things the right way. But yeah, I mean, the key guys, that top 15, 20 have to stay healthy. And if they stay healthy and they're out there, they're going to be tough to deal with.
What's the strength of the football team, John?
Offensive line is still the strength. again, the starting five, I mean, and 4 of the 5 are all pro level players. Maybe not Cam, but if you want to go Pro Bowl level, probably not all pro level, and then Tyler Steen is sort of the runt of the litter, so to speak, not physically, but from a performance standpoint, I think you're fine. You can deal. So that's still the best offensive line in football. And, I always say if you can't block people, and you see that with the second and third team Eagles offensive line and all the crappy reps, if you can't block people, you can't play offense. If you can block people, you can do a lot of things on offense. So that remains the number one strength. Typically, the defensive front is the number one strength on defense because that's how the Eagles built it. They're still very good on the interior. There's potential outside with Nolan Smith and even Jalix Hunt, but it's not as sturdy as it was last year. And we'll see how the linebackers look with Zach Ball and Jahad Campbell. Obviously, there's talent. So still good, but not quite as good as it was last year.
We'll see how they can prevail with that, John. If I had to ask you your top 3 strengths, I think offensive line is demonstrably number 1. I agree with that, but 2 and 3, where would they go?
Well, I still think defensive front, if you look for, I think they're very good at running back with Saquon and Will. I think Will's better than people realize, especially as a receiver. I still think they're very good at wide receiver as long as the top 3 are playing. And they're a little bit more capable, I think, with Mechie, but he just got here. It's tough to tell. But the top 3 is very, very good. And then linebacker, I think Trotter is, he might be their best backup player. If you just say who's the best backup player on the team, if you're going by the summer, he'd be, good back. Will's going to be a good backup. I'm looking, Jahan's a starter, so I don't count him. Cal Katera had a good summer. I think Matt Pryor's going to be a good backup as long as he doesn't have to play tackle. If you consider Morrow a backup, I'm not considering him a backup. He would be the best, but I'm not. So I think Trotter would be in that conversation to be their best backup player. And based on the summer he had.
That's pretty good. Wide receiver depth feels good too. I mean, they added Mechie, and you talked about that as almost like doesn't bring up questions that the wide receiver room wasn't good. But I feel like before we traded for Mechie, John, you were like, this is the deepest wide receiver room, in the Sirianni era. And then they added Mechie.
Well, yeah, but, I didn't expect Terrace got hurt. So Terrace Marshall, that was all focused on him originally, because if you remember back at the start of camp, he was playing really well. And then Elijah Cooks started playing really well.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt. And then, Anais Smith and Johnny Wilson were involved. And Johnny's gone. And Anais has shit the bed again. Before you even got to the undrafted guys who are looking good, Darius Cooper and Taylor Morin. So, that tells you how quickly it goes up in the smoke. And it went up in the smoke pretty quickly to the point now you're saying you're going outside the organization to get John Mechie. And there's, John was a great college player, but he didn't produce in Houston. And he had a lot of issues, starting with leukemia, which is very difficult to deal with, to say the least. He also tore his ACL. So, but you could see when he got here, and he's only been here for a short period of time, he's better than the other guys. Now, Marshall, I put off to the side because I think he can play, but it's tough to keep him with the injuries and and his inability to play special teams. He doesn't help you somewhere else. So to me, like if you needed somebody to play, especially outside for AJ or Devontae, he would be your best option, but you got to find a way to get him on the practice squad. And they might like Cooks better. But I like Marshall because he's a better athlete.
Right. And he had a decent preseason game on Friday. Well, I don't know if anybody had a decent game in that one, but I think he led the team in catches. He had like 5 catches in that game.
Yeah, he's I mean, he was a second round. He was a he was higher than Mechie during his draft. So he was a big time college player as well at LSU. Just happened to be maybe in the greatest wide receiver room of all time.
Right. John, now we talked about the 53-man roster. What, for those who don't know, what are the rules surrounding the practice squad? How many players do they keep? What are the rules with veterans? And then we'll talk about eventually, who you think is going to be on that practice squad. I don't know if you have them all in front of you. We can kind of do it.
Well, the practice squad is 16, and you can put veterans on. That's for the fan. That's all you need to know. It used to be back, you couldn't. So that has made things a lot easier for GMs around the league. And
what's the new rule this year? Isn't there a new rule for this year? You said though.
No, the recent rules that injured reserve, you can place 2 guys on injured reserve, but that's not new. It's only a couple years old. It used to be if you placed anyone on injured reserve before the initial cut down to 53, their season was over. Now you can place 2 guys on injured reserve and designate them to return at the initial cut down. So that's why a lot of people speculated, well, the Eagles might put McKee on injured reserve. He misses 4 games and you can keep another player, but that's not going to be the case. Landon, if he was going to miss 4 games, which he's not, you could put him on injured reserve. That's a fairly new rule last couple of years. Same thing with veterans on the practice squad. Used to be just for younger players. I believe the limit years ago was 2 years of experience. And then they made it 2 veterans, and now you could have 6 veterans, I believe is the number. So you can bring as many veterans essentially as you want. And that's a way of sort of manipulating things as well, which you brought up Jimmy talking about AJ Dillon, guys like that who are vested so they don't have to go through waivers. Kylan Granson is in that category. Patrick Johnson would be in that category now. I think he's vested now. If you do want to keep APR, but they have to be vested because then you don't risk losing them on waivers as long as you have that relationship, which the Eagles are typically very good at cultivating, and say, look, we want to keep you. We're going to start you on the practice squad, but we're going to elevate you. You're going to play on Sundays, and when it's time to put you on the 53, we're going to put you on the 53. That's what they did with Nick Gates last year.
Right.
So those are the 2 differences, but they're not new this year. They're just recent over the past couple of years.
Yep. We'll see what ends up happening. So let's run down the 16 name. I know we kind of did. Do you have them all listed out, or is that going to be too hard for you to do?
No, I got them listed out. I got them trying to get Kyle McCord back at quarterback, and they should be able to. Montrell Johnson, a running back, should be able to. Taylor Morin, undrafted receiver. Avery Williams, I think, is one of those vested guys they can get through. And then Cooks or Marshall, depending on your favorite player. I think the Eagles might lean towards Cooks. I would lean towards Marshall. EJ Jenkins, I think they want to continue to work with and bring back. Trevor Keegan, Holland Pierce, Cameron Williams, or Brett Toth, Holland Pierce, Cameron Williams. So to me, it's between who do you want to keep on the 53, Toth or Keegan. APR and O'Shawn Mathis on the edge. Lance Dixon at linebacker, Brandon Johnson, who is a nickelback that showed some promise. Eli Rakes, I think they'll try to get back. Andre Sam and Maxon Hook at safety. And then they have their international exemption, which will be Laken Bakalahi again. Unless they decide we're done with him and bring in another international player.
There you go. Not bad, Johnny Mac, but overall, obviously, still areas to improve. That's the case with every NFL roster, but I'm a little surprised you're so underwhelmed by the 90-man roster that they had. I feel like everybody's 90-man is not that good, and I also think, John, that it's one of the payoffs of success is that you're not able to keep as much depth from year to year because people poach your talent.
Well, I agree with that. I'm just trying to emphasize it. I think a lot of people didn't agree with that and are now shifting to that thought process and said, oh, they're great everywhere. They're great. Well, they're telling you they're not great everywhere by moving in and improving already at cornerback, at wide receiver, at backup quarterback, at swing tackle. And we still got time to go. So what I'm trying to say is they have highlighted that they were not happy with the depth at those positions by the moves they made.
All right, ready? So we got, if I put the number at a half a trade, you'd take the over in the next day and a half before cut.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I'm going to put it at 1.5 trades. Will Howie make more or less than 1.5 trades?
I'm gonna go over. I think he's got 2 in him. I think I'm going exactly at 2.
So you think he makes 2 trades?
But one might be a player going out. But I think one player at least is coming in, and one player might be going out. At least one player's coming in, and that would be edge rusher. And I will be stunned if we're doing this show post 4:00 on Tuesday, which, by the way, I'll be talking to Howie on Tuesday, so it's not going to be immediate. Just
does he talk? Oh, he talks after the initial.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I will be stunned, as I have been for months, and everybody can shit on me if they like. If they enter the season with this edge rushing group, I will be stunned.
We'll see if they do it. Let me make sure we got all of our chats. We got a couple super chats. Johnny Mac, Brian Pump checking in. What up, Pumper? He said, so if Keon White is too heavy to play end, explain BG last year. Sips tea.
I didn't say Keon White is too heavy to play. Keon White plays end. He's too heavy. I wish people would listen. Too heavy to play end for Vic Fangio. And he's heavier than BG, but even BG was, had a history with going back to Chip Kelly, being more comfortable being sort of the drop linebacker. He played linebacker at times. Now, Vic just liked him as a player. And that's the second part. Do not compare Brandon Graham to Keon White. Even Brandon Graham was a hell of a football player. People are talking about edge rusher and bringing in a 6'5", 285-pound guy. That is an old school base left end that does not exist in Vic Fangio's world in the modern game. Obviously, he's big enough to play defensive end. He's just got to play a different type of scheme.
Yeah, right.
If you want a 5 technique, go nuts. That's not what the Eagles want.
Pump. Let's see. Bird Gang says, if they trade for an edge, do you have an idea of the players?
I'm not going down this route. Watch the show. Watch on demand. I went too far to begin with.
You didn't go too far. You never.
Ebiketie is my number one. Gabe Murphy is another one.
They're going Trayvon Walker, John. You can't hide it from me anymore, John.
Well, it might be too expensive. That's the problem. But, that's a player that would help them. And again, Jacksonville, I don't know where Tony is. Tony's too busy. He's in London doing wrestling. I don't know. That organization is a shit show. I mean, I wouldn't trade him, but you keep hearing his name and it persists. I mean, they have Josh Hines Allen, who's a good player. They brought in Agba. You know, I don't see where they have somebody to replace him, but you keep hearing the damn name. And if you give them the 28th pick in the draft or the 29th pick in the draft or the 30th pick in the draft, I would do that. But Howie, not so sure. They don't like to give up their first round picks.
I know they don't, but they also like to compete for championships, and they like edge rushers, and they don't have a good one, or they don't have many good ones right now. I mean, he would change the trajectory of the season. Trayvon Walker.
Walks in the door as your best edge rusher. Walks in the door.
Which makes Nolan your 2 and Jalen your 3, which is probably where each of those guys should be.
Everything falls into place.
So if everything falls into place and Johnny Mack, who's the fucking arbiter of truth around football, says that. What? Come on, Roseman. Listen to Birds 365.
Takes two to tango. Takes 2 to tango.
Yeah, are they even thinking about moving him? I know that was talked about a little bit ago.
Yeah, again, I have no idea. All you hear, but all these random rumors are often not based in reality. The kid in Atlanta, that makes sense because they drafted 2 guys that they want to play. That makes more sense. Minnesota's loaded, so if they like Gabe Murphy, that makes sense. Walker doesn't make sense to me from Jacksonville's standpoint, but they're a terrible organization. So,
Right. They do dumb things. It's just what they do. Bird Gang again follows up. This feels like a weird comment. He says, John's got my shorts getting tight and it ain't even 10 a.m. Let's go. What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know.
Let's get off that. Bird Gang, thanks for the super chat, dog, but I don't know what the heck is going on this morning over there. All right. Texas T checks in. What's up, Texas T? Member for 9 months. Thank you. She says, ESPN proposed Jalix, a 2026 third, and a conditional 2027 for Hendrickson. Would you do it?
No. Hendrickson, I mean, I love the player. I'd love to get the player, but that's not realistic from a financial standpoint. Like when people do trades, like I always say, before you start with the trades, look at the contracts first. And the guy is holding out or holding in for 35, 40 million. It ain't working. Financially, it doesn't work. So you don't even get to the, and by the way, so just if money didn't matter, which it does, and that's what derails any Trey Hendrickson talk. I mean, a lot of people, you can't give up Jalix. Yeah, you can. Yeah,
but why would you include Jalix in a trade for an edge rusher when you're trying to improve that room? Because
you're getting a top tier.
I know you're improving it, but you're also weakening it on the back end. Like I think they would trade an asset from somewhere else.
Well, they probably would try. I'm just using the answer in the question because a lot of people, when you say, "Oh, you can't give up this guy," yes, you can. You can give it to get true difference-making players, but in Trey Hendrickson's, the money doesn't work. The only way it could potentially work is if he agreed to play out the last year of his deal to go get a Super Bowl. I do not believe that would be the case.
Right.
He doesn't work from the business perspective.
Johnny Mac, good stuff, man. Your final thoughts on a Monday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. We've got the cut down days tomorrow. We might have another breaking news segment at some point today. Johnny Mac, your final thoughts on the morning show today.
Howie, you screwed me. Please don't screw me today. No, I'm joking. With Darian Kennard, he screwed me, but
he did. He messed you up.
Yeah. More to come with the Eagles, and I do believe they will be moving and shaking. Couple more moves to come. I'm going over 1.5. Exactly.
That's big. So we got a couple things coming potentially. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning on Birds 365 and maybe later today for a breaking news segment.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, J Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Give him a follow on X at JF McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. All right. And we talked a lot today. John's got me thinking. You could tell John was trying to hide some intel today. Who got that vibe? John was trying to hide some stuff today. I can't say too much. I don't want to get my press pass taken, but something's coming. All right.